Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This will be the very first video I've ever recorded in my entire life, so bear with me here. So the reason why I decided to start this channel and create this video is I've been a nurse for about 10 years, and 3 of those years were spent in the ER. And through my journey, I've learned a lot of things about myself, and I've had a significant change in my life in March 2020, which we will definitely touch on. And I felt like I wanted to share these experiences and share these lessons that I've learned with others because I like to think about it as harm reduction. I really feel like these changes happened and for my bettering, i.e., I'm not sure if that's an English word, but it is now. But I really feel like if I shared my story with others and shared my experiences and lessons with others, that they would also feel like it resonates with them, and that they would also maybe, hopefully, take what they've learned and apply it in their own lives. Before that, I consider myself like somebody who had a great life. I have a great job. I had, my vacation paid, my sick time paid, I got dental care paid for. I had friends, I had acquaintances. I was a big social butterfly. I was always out and about. And I was really rarely at home in the evening time. If I wasn't at work, I was always out and about. And I really noticed that I didn't pay attention to how I felt after any kind of interaction, whether it was with friends or events, or I never really asked myself, well, Gina, how did you feel about this? And how did that go? And I feel like there's very few jobs that are more rewarding than nursing. Like there's very few jobs that allow you to hold a person's hand in their most vulnerable moments and be that person for them sometimes in the absence of family. And I really love nursing. This is a video that is not meant to discredit nursing by any means, especially during this pandemic. Every nurse is extremely valuable. I really mean that. I'm just talking about my own personal journey and touching my mic, and the changes that I don't get me wrong. I'm still a nurse. I still work in the healthcare field. I'm still employed by a health authority. But these are changes that I've noticed that I wasn't able to address through nursing. So I realized that in March that, I was having, like, I had all the things that look great on the outside, but when it came at the end of the day, I was always so tired. And to unwind, I had such a bad habit of watching TV and eating junk food, and I would eat so much, and then I would, crash at the end of the day, and that's how I felt like I unwinded. And what I realized that I really didn't have very much control over my life. And Gina, what do you mean by that? I mean, for example, if I had an argument with a partner, my emotions would be so out of whack, and they would fluctuate so much. And I felt like I didn't have any control over my own self. I was so dependent on what was going on around me, which dictated how I felt in every moment. And not only that, but I felt like the decisions I was making wasn't for me. I felt like it was more, the decisions I was making were more geared towards making other people, like I basically worried about what other people thought of me all the time. Like to the point where if I had a less than pleasant experience with a colleague, which happens often in emergency, I would think about it and it would replay it all over and over and over again in my mind. And I felt like I was reliving it over and over and over again. I never really got over it, and I never had consistency with my emotions, which made me feel very unsatisfied. And I felt like there should be a different way to live life without having to constantly be worried about what other people think, without having to be constantly having to deal with fluctuating emotions and having high stress in my life and all those things. It got to a point where in the morning when I first wake up, I'm diabetic. I'm always attached to this thing. Thank you, Medtronic. But really, when I wake up in the morning, my blood sugar would shoot up to anybody who's in the healthcare field to an 18. And 18, if anybody knows, that can be enough to put somebody in the hospital. And mind you, this would happen sometimes often in the morning. As soon as I opened my eyes, it would go from a 6.7 to an 18 without me having any food at all, which is strictly stress. But I didn't feel it in my body. As somebody in healthcare field and somebody that considers themselves pretty intelligent, I had always, up to that point, made decisions based on if it made sense in my own mind. I always used my intelligence, which is something that is a skill that I've been told is the only skill that I need to use to make decisions, because of other things that we will talk about later, maybe other videos, who knows. But I was told that, if something makes sense, then do it. If it doesn't make sense, then I don't do it. Logic was always my starting point. Does this make sense logically? Yes or no? Decision made. And so let's backtrack. This is the moment we've been waiting for. March 2020. So March 2020, as everybody knows, was in the smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. And I was working in the ER, and I was getting so burnt out, to the point that I was starting to really have anxiety after work, and my mind was just going so fast that I lacked focus, and it got to a point where one day after work, I was sitting on my couch, and I don't even think the TV was on at that point, and I had a straight up panic attack. Mind you, I've never been diagnosed with anxiety or depression, and I think I've probably had anxiety for most of my life, but because I was so out of touch with my body, I didn't recognize that I had so much dwelling anxiety inside my body until I had that panic attack. Now, side note, I had only ever had one panic attack once ever in my life, and that was justified, okay? I was not safe in my place, sitting on my couch, in my living room, surrounded by my own belongings, and I had shortness of breath, palpitations, sweaty palms. I was a mess. And I spent my 2 months, March and April, in that state of really questioning, who am I? What am I even doing? What am I actually achieving in this life? Am I happy? Will I be happy enough to die on my deathbed and be like, hey, I did a good job? Will this life, as I'm living it now, be a good enough life for me? Again, disclaimer, this is only Gina's experience. I came on YouTube to share my experience. I'm not saying this is specific to women or nurses or people of color, none of that. I'm just saying this is Gina's experience. So in April actually, because I spent 2 months being in that state, I remember just being non-functional. I couldn't even, my mind was moving so fast that I couldn't even plan my day. What am I going to even do today? Something very simple. I couldn't even muster enough energy to clean my apartment. I was so tired to even cook myself a meal. And then in April, I got introduced to a type of meditation. It's called Tao Science. It's created by Master Sha, actually. Please look him up. I highly recommend. But this really applies to any kind of meditation. Anytime that you instill stillness in your life and moments of stillness and quietness in your life, that's really just meditation. And there is no one type of meditation that is more beneficial than another. This is just the meditation that got me started on this journey. And so for the first time, after starting practicing this meditation, it was the very first time that I really even explored the idea of me having more control over my life. It was a whole new concept. Like, what does that even mean? Control over my life. I have control of my life. Like, right? Like, I had a great ego, a very, very big, healthy ego, especially doing what I do. Like I felt like I got it, you know? And when I started adding stillness into my life, I realized that there was actually, I was really making decisions out of ego and my mind, when it was more beneficial for me to make decisions based on what I felt. I started exploring the idea of changing my reality through my mind and soul. Probably the biggest lesson I've learned is that my thoughts are not me. Gina, what does that even mean? I get it. I get it. I've had the exact same reaction. Let me tell you a story. So I have a friend. We're going to call her Jessica. So Jessica and I used to work together probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. And we worked together for a few years. And I remember her being a very like, she just shines bright. She walks into the unit and I get so happy because I love working with her, and she's always so kind and cheerful. She's one of those nurses, you know, like when you're not feeling, oh honey, how you doing? You okay? Can I get you some water? She's that person. Okay, she's just a ball of sunshine, this woman. And I remember she crossed my mind very, very randomly. And I was like, you know what? It's a sign that I'm going to reach out to her. So I reached out to her. I texted her. I was like, hey, what are you up to? Do you want to go for a walk tomorrow morning? She's like, hell yeah, let's go for a walk. So we ended up going for a walk in the forest the next day. Okay? And so let me tell you about Jessica. This woman is the opposite of the way I used to be. So I used to make all the decisions based on logic and thinking. This woman makes decisions based on how she felt all the time. And we would we'd meet up, and I would be like complaining to her about, you know, this person said this and that person did that, and I can't believe this happened, and I was getting frustrated, and you know, I'm pissed off, and like I'm burnt out, like I can't do this anymore. And she would always laugh at me, which is obviously not the reaction that I want. And she would laugh at me and she would say like, okay, but like, how do you feel? And that would just piss me off so much more. Like, what do you mean, how do I feel? I'm pissed. Like, how do you, she like asked me, how was your Wednesday? It's fine. How do you feel? I feel fine, Jessica. Like, it's fine. It's been fine. And so it happened several times, and she'll tell you, probably over the period of like maybe 2 months, where this would repeat itself. Like, I would share a story where I'd be very emotionally invested unnecessarily, and she would ask me, how do you feel? And so I would just shape it, I'm frustrated, or like I'm mad, or you know, usually that's your go-to emotion, you're angry. And she would just laugh at me until she really got to me after a couple months. I mean, fair enough, it's a couple months, but after a couple months of her asking me, how do you feel? I was like, you know, like I've already tried living my life like this. Why not explore being more in touch with how I feel and how my body is? And so I started, because I didn't really know what the heck I was doing, I started with daily, we call them in nursing ADLs, activities of daily living. So I started asking myself, how do I feel when I brush my teeth, when I'm washing the dishes, when I'm walking from one room to another? How do I feel? And I felt so silly. Like, what are you doing? But, you know, it started out very simple answers. How do I feel brushing my teeth? I feel really good that I'm taking care of my oral health. Awesome. How do I feel about washing dishes? I feel good because I like a clean place, and washing dishes makes me feel like I am living in a clean place and gives me peace of mind. I'm cooking food. How do I feel? I feel good because I'm taking care of my body, and so on and so forth. And so those questions kind of developed into interactions. So instead of asking myself, how do I feel when I brush my teeth? How do I feel after I've hung out with so and so? How do I feel after being really tired, kind of wanting to have a rest day, but going out anyways? How do I feel? How do I feel saying yes to a barbecue and attending the barbecue? And that really, I noticed that some of the answers were less than ideal. And that gave me the opportunity to reflect on that. So I started asking myself, like, how do I feel after going to events? How do I feel going to this barbecue, for example, even though I really just want to stay home and rest because I had been working for a long time? Or how do I feel hanging out with this person after one-on-one, for example? Uh, so let's just create an example. So let's say I hung out with a friend yesterday. We went for dinner. And so, Gina, how do you feel about dinner last night? Well, it was really nice, but I felt like I was really drained emotionally. Okay, so why do you think you're drained emotionally? Well, this person, was going through a hard time, and I was there for them as a friend, and I felt very drained after. And that's cool. I'm not discouraging you from being there for your friends. In fact, I encourage you to be there for your friends. That's a job of a friend, is to be a support system for your friends. But it's not meant to help you create a judgment. It's just meant to increase your awareness as to what's going on for you inside in here. So I would like to ask you guys, as people who are watching this video, like, how often do you go with your friends and come home feeling drained? What does it feel like to feel drained? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? How often do you go with friends and you feel uplifted? Do you feel energetic? You feel lighter? You feel enlightened? You feel lighter? I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Let's bring it back for a second, okay? We all know, it is common knowledge that stress causes physical ailments, correct? We know that when you're stressed out, hormones are released, and if you are going through an acutely stressful period in your life, that can manifest in your physical body. That can manifest in your chest. It can feel like palpitations. It can be shortness of breath. It can be numbness in your hands. It can be completely different. It's completely different for each person. But stress, we all know, causes physical manifestations. Less than ideal physical manifestations. So I figured, if stress has negative effect on our body, what if the removal of stress or feelings of elevation will improve our body? Because humans are the only species, really, that torture ourselves the way we do. What do you mean, Gina? What does torture mean? Let me tell you. So, how many times have you had a negative experience? Let's say you had an argument with your partner. You had an argument with your partner, and now it's been an hour later, and you're still going over the same situation in your mind over and over and over and over and over and over, thinking about the different things you would have said, if they had only done that, if they had only said this, if I only had done that, if I only had said this, if it was this way it wouldn't have happened, or blaming other people, other things, or circumstances for this argument that you had. What are you doing in that moment? You are reliving the same experience over and over again. And something that we don't realize is that your mind doesn't know the difference between real life and imagination. So whether or not you went through the same argument physically with this person again, or you just imagined that you went through it again, or remember that you went through it again, the same hormones are released in your body over and over again. So what we're actually doing is we're going through the same experience over and over and over again. And those hormones are being released over and over and over again. And so not only is your heart going fast, but it doesn't even have rest. It just continues to go fast and fast and fast. And so until something else happens or we forget about it, it gets suppressed. And it doesn't really go anywhere because you haven't really done anything about it. It just kind of stays in your body, and that stress just stays in your body. Something that most people don't know is that there's two types of torture: physical torture and mental torture. Physical torture, pretty straightforward. Second one is mental torture, which we put ourselves through every single day without even realizing, without even really taking into consideration the effect that it has on our body.